Hi everyone, Marcus in here. Today I'll be looking over the Dominion Rising Sun expansion in full for the first time. So the rulebook for Dominion Rising Sun got released today, and up until now I have only seen the cards that were previewed this week. So from Monday to Friday there were some cards that were previewed, and I've seen those, but I haven't been able to try them out like I would for all the other expansions that came out recently because they weren't available online for one reason or another. They're right now on the I guess the pre-release server. I don't know exactly what to call it, but it's the alternate server for Dominion.games at risingsun.dominion.games, and I'm just going to be going over all the cards and card-shaped things one by one, seeing what they do, and not knowing what all of them do. So I don't. This is really my first look at a lot of these cards. So I'm just going to give my thoughts on each of them, and I haven't gotten to play with any of them, so a lot of these takes might be off. But let's get started with Mountain Shrine. So this is +1 sun. I'm going to call it +1 sun. So the way these work is that you have these prophecies over here. The blue cards here are the prophecies. And when a prophecy happens, when they start with some number of sun counters, and when all the sun counters, every time there's a +1 sun, it means remove a sun counter from the prophecy, and when all the sun counters are removed from the prophecy, it takes effect for the rest of the game. So, for example, here's Kind Emperor. This was previewed. So it's saying at the start of your turn, and when you remove the last sun, gain an action to your hand. So that happens to everybody equally, regardless of who removed the counters, and the number of counters changes depending on um, the number of players. But for 2-player, it's 5 suns. So what that means is when you play Mountain Shrine 5 times, the prophecy will activate for the rest of the game. So that's what the sun means. There's the debt symbol on the bottom left saying this costs 5 debt. I'm not sure what that was, but I'm just going to continue. So it costs 5 debt, so you don't have to pay 5 up front. You just pay what you can now, and then on a later turn, you can pay the rest, but you can't buy any other cards or events until you've paid off the debt, which can now be paid off at any time. That's a recent rules change. So with all those mechanics out of the way, this keeps losing. I keeps breaking up. That's not good. I'm gonna hope that doesn't happen as much, but if it does, so be it. Um, Anyway, so this is +1 sun, +2. You may trash a card from your hand. Then, if there are any action cards in the trash, +2 cards. So the immediate comparison is something like Priest or Salvager, where you trash a card and you get +2 coin. And you get to open this regardless of whether you have 5-2 or 4-3. So you could always get it on the turn 2. So that's really nice that you can weave this in with any other opening, and it's reliable. I think it's just reliable tempo trashing, so it's not as good. Maybe Moneylender will give you 3 coins, but this in exchange lets you trash estates, which is a really big deal because it lets you on the shuffle after you play this for the first time. It's going to be a lot easier to afford good cards. So I'm hyped. That's really good. So hold on here. Yeah, sorry for the interruption. So yeah, I think this is a really solid card. A lot of people were saying this is going to be like top tier card. Uh, it's up there. I think it's. I can see where the hype is. You don't. It's not very flashy, but it does do the job. And then when you have the action card in the trash, it becomes +2 cards. First of all, it's a May trash, so you never stuck trashing with it, so that's really good. And then once there's an action gun in the trash, it becomes like a draw card that gives you money. So it's like the parts of Mercenary that don't trash. Uh, yeah, I think actions do end up in the trash one reason or another. Not every game, some games, and maybe you don't want to trigger this for your opponent because it's symmetrical. But if you think if you just use a lurker or something, or you trash something to Necromancer's Zombie Apprentice, and then this activates, you're in you're in a pretty good spot. So it's all really higher end card, I would say. Very nice. Next one is Daimyo. I don't know all the pronunciations of these cards, but we're just gonna say Daimyo. Plus one card, plus one action. The next time you play a non-command action card this turn, replay it afterwards, and this costs 6 debt. This was a previewed card as well, and uh, my immediate uh, my immediate comparison was to Royal Carriage, where you're playing something non-terminal. You're playing, let's say, a throne room non-terminally, and then uh, you you later on get to double something. So that's pretty nice. Although in this case with Daimyo, would have to draw at the same turn, and if you have a case where like you play two of these, and then you have a village and a smithy, you kind of have to double up on the village if you want to play more actions. If you want to play more actions that turn, so maybe it's not ideal every time. So if it's like you have the smithy, the daimyo in hand, you draw the second one draws a village. It's not and there it's an issue. Whereas if those daimyos were throne rooms, they would uh you would be able to do throne room, smithy twice, and then village twice, and then you get back on track. But you know what? At 6 debt, being able to just get this randomly whenever you actually need it. Well, you don't know when you're gonna draw it, but getting it like on during the game at any convenient point, whereas you have plus buy, uh, it may pay off itself pretty quickly. So I think it's really solid. Yeah, I don't know why the screen creeps. It is a tester. It is not the official server, so but I don't want to wait any more time to uh get my hands on this. So yeah, take a look. The next one is artist. Uh, this is plus one action, plus one card per card you have exactly one copy of in play. It's 8 debt, and people are. This was previewed as well, so people are pretty torn on how good this is. Thinking about it a bit more, uh, I think it's gonna be pretty good because you're just building the deck with this in mind. You get more artists than you do other cards, but if you get like a couple, if you like pretend like you're playing against Warlord or something, and you manage your cantrips and stuff, and you hold on off on playing your cantrips until you find the artist, then it's going to be pretty good. Uh, if you somehow have some treasures in play, maybe that's going to boost it as well. Or if you have some durations, it's going to work well with durations. I can see from here. I only see 2 durations uh, within this list of 25 cards. So maybe not so much in Rising Sun, but with other sets, yeah. I am more positive about this card than maybe I initially was, without having played it though. However, it does cost 8 debt, so I was thinking, okay, if this was 6 debt, uh, he would be really good, and then I don't know why it doesn't cost 7 debt. It could have. I'm going to be drinking water and such throughout the video, because just like last time when I was going over Plunder, the expansion, I was sick that time, and I am sick this time. So that's two for two for the most recent sets, being sick. And yet, but because I haven't seen some of these cards, any of these cards in action, it's going to take a while to go through everything. The next is the Fishmonger. So this is a shadow card. So one thing you'll notice is right away it says, okay, so it says it's a 2 cost action, Shadow, +1 buy, +1 coin. You may play this from your deck as if in your hand. What happens here is when you when you have a Shadow card, when you shuffle it into your deck, every time you shuffle it into your deck, you put it at the bottom of the library, and if you have more than one shadow, you put them in any order. So you can play the shadows anytime you pretend like the shadow card is in your hand. So if you could play that shadow card, if it was in your hand, you can play it from the bottom of your deck. What that means is if since you're playing it from somewhere other than your hand, you could think of it, if you manage to do that, that's an implicit +1 card, or it's not costing you a card to play this like it normally would. However, this one particular one costs you an action, so if you don't have the actions to spare, then you're going to still draw into this eventually. If you get to the bottom of your deck without playing it, then it was like a stop card. So these shadow cards can be stop cards. So you better be careful how you use them. So for Fishmonger, though, if you open it and silver, you guarantee 5 because on any hand we have 4. You on the first 2 hands, turn 3, turn 4, you play this and um, you get to hit 5. And spoiler alert, the same is true for Alley that's right below it. These Fishmonger and Alley were both previewed. While Fishmonger is +1 blind, +1 coin, the Alley is +1 card, +1 action, discard a card. So this is kind of a filtering instead of giving you coins. So, and it's double the price. So instead of just getting a cheap thing, the Alley would be giving you getting first of all getting you to a clean shuffle. Turn 4, you're at the bottom of your deck, assuming you only gain 2 cards total in the first 2 turns. So uh, Ali's pretty. I think it's pretty nice. I don't think it's absolutely necessary or anything. You might be giving up a lot by opening Ali. But if you just want to hit a 5 cost card, you could just get like Ali Silver, and then you're gonna be good. Pretty sure you hit 5 somehow with that. Same for Fishmonger. Fishmonger, this one you may more reasonably open with, let's say, a more useful 4 cost or a 5 cost. So, uh, but it's interesting. There's only 5 shadow cards apparently. I've seen 3 of them. The third one being Ninja. We'll get to that when we get to that. Stake Witch. This one I have not seen. This is an action attack. It costs 2. Okay. It says +1 card, +1 action. If your hand has no duplicate cards, you may reveal it and return this to its pile to have each other player gain a curse. Okay, so there's some kind of menagerie theme here. No duplicate cards. Well, I kind of like I like that because if you buy these kind of for cheap on 2 on a spare, and then there's a lot of you could do to manipulate your hand to make it so that you have no duplicates. It happens pretty quickly, but you do still get the +1 action, uh, which unfortunately means you might draw into a duplicate. So unlike Menagerie, you don't know if this is going to activate until it activates. There's like 1 card unknown here, so that is a knock against it. Um, and then you still return it to its pile, and so you give out 1 curse. So it's kind of like an event, a very delayed curse for 2. Uh, yeah. Um, Still, but I think it's okay. I think it's kind of cute. Or it might be. I don't think it's gonna be that annoying. It's just kind of like there. It's kind of um not as harsh of an attack as some of these others. That's what I think. Just because if you open it, you're probably not going to dish out curses, and then when you do dish out curses, you still have to rebuy this. So in games with no plus buy, you're really not going to get this unless you have spare 2. So it's not in that sense. It's not really doing much in a lot of cases. The next one is Aristocrat. That costs 3. Uh, it says if the number of aristocrats you have in play is 1 or 5 plus 3 actions, 2 or 6 plus 3 cards, 3 or 7 plus 3 coins, and 4 or 8 plus 3 buys. Uh, um, hmm. How would that? Okay, so let's say you have a hand of 5 aristocrats. You play the first one, it's plus 3 actions. You play numbers aristocrats 2 and 4. So you would go up to. You would draw 9 cards, but then have 0 actions. Oh, no, no, that's not true. You would have. Okay, the second one gives you plus 3 cards. The third one gives you plus 3 coins. And then the fourth one gives you plus 3 buys. So 4 aristocrats kind of ends your turn at that point, but you have. Uh. What do you have? Uh, a hand. You have 0 actions. You have a hand of 4 cards, other cards, plus 3, and then plus buys. Plus 3 buys. That does. I mean, that's not like super exciting because that's four things for like that's 4 aristocrats for um plus 3 coins, plus 3 buys. But if you played only 3 aristocrats, you would have let's see, 4, 3, 2. You'd have a hand size of 5. You'd have 1 action left, and you'd have plus 3. Okay, so maybe you don't want to play the fourth one unless you have a village, but playing 3 aristocrats, that's okay, and they cost 3, and they give you the buys to get more aristocrats, so they propagate. You're gonna want to have at least 2 of these to get anywhere. Um, so that's a bit lurker like. Like if you open aristocrat, I'm really not hyped for that. Um, and if there's some way to get a village, then you can restart the loop over. Okay. If what I understand is about this card is correct, it's okay. Um, it's not. You're really gonna want trashing with to get this one to work. That's what I think. But yeah, let's go to the next one, Craftsman. What is this? Action plus 2 debt, gain a card costing up to 5. Okay. Okay, debt. So it feels like okay, it's not feast because you get to keep the craftsman. We've had importer, but from plunder, no, from allies that took extra turns, so you could play this every turn. If you drew this with a silver each turn, then that's 2 cards giving you 5 and then 3. So it's I mean it's like anvil for 5 costs if you think about it like play instead of plus 2 debt, it was gain a card costing up to 5, discard a copper, or discard 2 coppers and discard 1 silver. That's kind of like Anvil. Oh, but this costs an action. Um, maybe early game you don't care so much about that. Uh, and you're not actually discarding anything, so it's the synergy of. How good is this card? It's because it's not being you still have to spend an action on it. Uh, I think it's pretty. I think it's okay. I do feel like if you had silver, you could have just bought the 5 and then not have to spend an action on playing this, and then you wouldn't have to deal with the debt either. So I think there's better. Like as good of an opening as it seems, I think if you do something a bit riskier that's less guaranteed, you might come out on top. Riskier being not gaining this and instead getting some silvers and some other card, maybe a trasher, a tempo trasher like Mountain Shrine, something like that. Some terminal that's going to be doing more tempo things for you than Craftsman. That's what I think. Uh, Riverboat, this was previewed today. Craftsman and Aristocrat were not previewed, nor Snake Witch, but Riverboat has been previewed today. Haven't got to try it. So it says at the start of your next turn, play the set aside card, leaving it there. What's the set aside card? It's some unused non-duration action costing up to 5. And I do like. I know with Royal Galley from Alleys, you got to choose the card to play at the start of the turn, but and you got to choose more than one. This is kind of cool in terms of you could start with maybe a larger hand size. If you had a laboratory, you'd play this, in the next turn you get like an extra action and get 2 cards. So it's just some reliability, assuming the card is a draw card, but it might not be a draw card. I saw this and I'm like, okay, but what if the non-duration is like mint or something? It just does some specific thing for you uh, that you only want to do when you have full control at the end of your turn. Then it's not going to be great, and you're going to have to do this at the start of the turn where you have no control. Even something like Butcher, but it would be really good if if it's set aside Butcher. But you don't get to do as many Butcher tricks. You might mill a province if you start with a province in hand, but which, admittedly, with Butcher, if you're playing, often you're not. You can still do a lot of things with a card like Butcher when you're not drawing cards. So this is still doing some. It could still do a lot with all these remodel cards. Just like what was that? Enlarge from Plunder, I think. It just you 2 times you get to remodel a card from your hand. Um, we'll have to. So the base. I think this will. I think it's a cute card. I don't think it's especially. It might be the best card on the board if it's some duration draw, like if it's some smithies behind this. But if it's not, if it might fall flat on its face. So you'll know when you know. You'll. It'll depend on the board a lot, more so than other cards, how good this is. But you'll know how good it is. Um, Root Cellar is the next one. It's an action. We saw this already in previews. It's +3 cards, +1 action, +3 debt. Uh, Early game, I just think this is bad. I mean, people rag on um, tide pools where it's +3 cards, +1 action, then discard 2 cards at your next turn. But in the early game, you might discard like a copper in a state, or maybe even 2 states. This is you're always eating up, discarding 3 coppers. Your next 3 coppers. This is always discarding your econ, and you think of that for sifting. That's and you're not really sifting. You're sifting your not worst card. If you think of this as you're getting some velocity, you're getting some close to your deck, but you're always giving up econ for it each time. Uh, that's not something you want to open. You don't want to be discarding coppers in your opening without gaining something directly. So later on in the game, yeah, if you really need to draw, I mean, people will play Lich just to get a good final turn. So obviously you'll do that with Root Cellar if you don't care about the debt, but you probably will care about the debt because if you want to buy anything that turn, uh, you might need something. And let's see if you have a Root Cellar and a gold in your deck, the gold would pay off. The debt, and you'd have +2 cards. So that would be like a 3 card lab, a 3 cost lab, with the caveat that you have to have gained the gold somewhere else, and the gold might having more golds might make your more variance in your deck. Uh, it's hard for me to see the. It just feels like a major hit. I mean, you could also compare it to Storyteller, uh, which you play some treasures and you draw all cards, but that one, just one Storyteller, draws a lot of cards if you hit gold and such. You have control over that. You can say, well, this time I'm not going to play my Storyteller. You can just cantrip the rest of them, or you might be able to draw 6 cards off one, um, and maybe you won't next time, but Root Cellar each time. Uh, and I'm not too high on it, but uh, maybe like lower, uh, like a 2/5 tier or something card, like from the bottom, like basically like a 2 out of 5 or a 4 out of 10 or something kind of card. Is how I see it. Maybe 3, maybe it's even worse. I saw some simulation results of like Marauder Root Cellar versus Marauder Silver, and like Root Cellar Marauder got demolished hard. So Ali, I already talked about it a little bit. I think it's good. I think it's just going to be nice to pick up with a couple workshop plays, or you get buy a couple early game, and you're just kind of smooth. You're smooth sailing for a lot of good parts of the game. You get to use it every turn if you're drawing deck every turn, so that's nice. Unlike Guide from Adventures. So I like that. I overall like the card. Um, Change. This was also previewed. It says if you have any debt, plus 3 coins. Otherwise, trash a card from your hand and gain a card costing more coin than it cost than it, and then plus debt equal to the difference in coin. So, what this means is that as long as you trash a card, and as long as that card, uh, as long as you want to gain a card that has more coin cost than the other one, then you can gain it. So, for example, oh, this hasn't happened for a while. For example, if you were to trash a copper, you can gain a scrying pool. So scrying pool would be like, where is it? Here. See, it has more coin cost than copper, so you can gain that. So you don't really care about the potion cost. That's one thing. Uh, just rules wise. Two, this does let you go copper to province, but then you take 8 debt. And then your other changes, they're not going to be able to um, go 100% debt, because the any future changes you play are going to be giving you plus 3 coin until until you have no debt left. However, you can pay the debt in the middle of your action phase now, so you can pay it any time. So that means that in the turn, if you, let's say, play yeah, 3 changes, one of them gains a goes copper to silver. The second one pays off your debt. The third one can once again trash a card, gain another card. Uh, I would think that this is kind of like, it reminds me a bit of like Salvager in the opening. You kind of trash an estate, and you gain a let's say a 5 cost, and then you have 3 debt, but then the other coppers pay it off that. So it's kind of like um uh yeah, like Salvager. I mean, the Craftsman also gained a 5, but it wasn't trashing something at the same time. So that's kind of the difference here, is that you are thinning over time. And you have control. You not where if this hits, let's say 4 coppers, then you just trash the copper for silver and pay off the debt with the other 3 coppers. So that's better than something like Salvager or Remodel was going to do for you. So I like that. You can even gain a copper to a 5 cost if you really have to, or a 6, or really anything. What are the 6 costs around? Not many on this set. I see the Samurai, and that's about it. Uh, but yeah, I think it's going to be cute having one of these changes um, to trash maybe a 4 cost to a province, and then buy the last province on the last turn. So it has some tricks like that. So kind of similar family to the remodels and stuff. So uh, the similar tactical considerations should be taken there. Ninja. This is a previewed card as well. It's a shadow card like the Fishmonger and Ali. It says +1 card. Each other player discards down to 3 cards in hand, and then you may play this from your deck as if in your hand. So it's kind of like you open this, and then immediately on turn 3 you can play it, which will bring you up to 6 cards. Unless your opponent already played a ninja against you, then you only have 4 cards. So maybe you want to hold off on the ninja until later turn. But it's a really consistent attack. It's really from everything I've seen from just preliminary simulations, as well as just thinking about it conceptually, you're attacking with just a couple of ninjas, 2 to 3 ninjas. You're going to attack every turn, and there's no chance that this is. If you don't want to play the ninja, then it's never going to be block your draw. So that's kind of like all of these shadow cards are a bit like the terminal ones. They're like um, bandit camp, where they would gain, let's say, a spoils, which is a stop card, but they gain them to your deck. So it was after you've drawn all of your gas in your deck, then you draw your payload at the end. So all the shadow cards are like that. They're not going to get in your way unless you can't spend a payment on them. So this particular one attacks, so it means you're going to be attacking all game. Uh, so um, yeah, hold on. There was just something that it was had to do. Um, hmm. Yeah, so it's going to be really strong, the ninja. All this to say. The next card is Poet. This was a previewed card. It has +1 sun, +1 card, +1 action, costs 4. Just like the ninja, it is the cost 4 as well. I didn't mention that. Reveal the top card of your deck. If it costs 3 or less, put it into your hand. So it's gonna, if you open it, it's gonna draw your estate in copper. So it's like a lab, which could be said about a laboratory. That could be said about a lot of cards in the opening. Um, but they don't like each other. If you find another poet, they don't draw. Um, if you think about Wisp kind of uh, depending on how much you've trashed, it will whiff a lot, as may the poet. Unless your village is cost 3, but there's not that many villages that cost 3. Not many key cards cost 3, and uh, still you'll be drawing lots of, let's say, silvers cost 3. So there are some things that do cost 3 or less. A lot of things that cost 3 or less, but usually it's not the stuff that's going to keep your turn going. On the other hand, you are sifting that stuff out of your deck. So if you can't trash, get a bunch of poets. If you can trash, well, at least it's going to bump up the prophecy, and maybe you care about the prophecy. Overall, I think it's solid in a lot of ways, just because you can open it and it'll do good stuff for you. If you just want to get a 3 cost trasher, so 3 cost terminal card, and then poet, that sounds really good. Uh, yeah. The next one's River Shrine. Another Omen card has the +1 sun, it costs 4. It says trash up to 2 cards from your hand at the start of your cleanup. If you didn't gain any cards in your buy phase this turn, gain a card costing up to 4. So there's a lot of hype for this card too, because you open it, you trash 2 cards, say 2 estates. Instead of spending the 2 coppers on nothing, you just gain a card costing up to 4. So it's kind of like your if you had trading post, but instead of gaining a silver, you gain. Oh well, no, but then you would be able to buy something. So essentially, like workshop with if you think of workshop, the idea is you gain a car for car costing up to 4, and then you buy something too. Uh, hopefully, which you can't do with River Shrine, because you have to have gained nothing on your buy phase. So it's not like workshop, but it is kind of like trashing 2 cards and then getting poorhouse, like and then playing poorhouse. So you basically caps you off at 4. It's like or like a storeroom that where instead of discarding cards to draw, it just for coin, it just trashed them. So you're getting that you're combining cards into 1 card. So you're kind of forging. It's like a mini forge if you think of that. That's another way to look at it. That you could open with it, and you don't have to trash. You could just trash 1 card or 0, and just get whatever benefit. It's going to be pretty dead pretty quickly in terms of the gaining cards costing up to 4. Yeah, so that's not going to last. It's just the tempo. Because you're getting that early in the second and third shuffle, you're getting a card costing up to 4. There's a lot of hype for that card. Uh, I was gonna say with Craftsman, you're also probably not gaining a good card with alongside the 5. So um, it's kind of more like capping yourself off at 5. Uh, so the River Shrine, I'm not as it is really good at the trashing job. I think trashing up to 2, but it loses a lot of utility later on. So I would still get something like Masquerade after instead of River Shrine. Um, but it still has you're gonna get I think a lot of times. And these all these cards with the sun are pretty meant to be pretty strong, so that they kind of enforce the prophecy to come true. The next one is Rustic Village, another previewed card. It says +1 sun, +1 card, +2 actions. So it's a village. You to play more terminals. And it also says you may discard 2 cards for 1 card, which I think is really good. It means if you had 2 coppers, you might draw if you had an unlucky starting hand with your stop cards bunched up, you discard 2 and you find you find your other draw cards so that you manage to salvage your turn. Even if it brings you down to like 4 cards or even 3 cards, if you have to do it twice, you're still getting to see. You're still getting to see. So it's kind of like almost like in if you want it to be, you get to draw the card first, and then you decide, okay, do I want to discard 2 cards to draw one more? So because it's kind of like hunting legend that you get to see first. You get information before you have to make that choice, which I think makes it pretty powerful. Uh, Costing up to 4. So and it enforces the prophecy. So I do think Resting Village is one of the better side of the villages, just for that reliability. I mean, it's doing more than some other forecasts I could think of in terms of when for if you're playing with villages, you want to be able to find your terminal. So it's really a very synergistic effect, I think. Gold mine costs 5. It says +1 card, +1 action, +1 buy. You may gain a gold and get +4 coin. Plus 4 debt. I think I actually like this card. I think of it like when you're playing Tragic Hero and you're getting +3 cards and you're trashing it to getting gold, and then you buy another Tragic Hero, you kind of got a bit of a deficit with that first gold. But after you stop, once you stop getting more Tragic Heroes and start spending those golds on things you want, other things, you really feel the benefit of having those extra golds. Unfortunately, this is not a draw. It doesn't really increase your hand size, so it's not, and it only gives plus buy if you don't use it for the gold part. So its utility is limited. Uh, you may still need it for the plus buy. Its utility is limited after you're done with golds. Um, but I think it's a better option than buying the gold, honestly. And yeah, the you get the gold to pay. The 4 debts is an issue maybe, but it's kind of like a deficit. It's not like the root cellar because this is giving you the econ to counteract that, so it's less of a deficit, and you get to stop. It stops doing that. You just choose not to get the gold anymore. So I have higher. I'm hopeful that gold mine will be like okay, uh, to good. Um, Imperial Envoy. Um, this is a new one for me. I haven't seen this yet. It just says +5 cards, +1 buy, +2 debt for 5. Uh, if we think of debt as discard, each debt being discard a copper, you could think of this like, uh, what's that card? Embassy, but better because you're not actually discarding the cards. Well, not better, but it's like Embassy, but it's in terms of finding cards, a good if you have only like good cards, you're never gonna have to discard them. But it's bad in that if you're early on because you're not able to just like discard estates, like you're you're forced to take this 2 debt and you're forced to eat up with the value that your coppers would have given you. So, um, but not as harsh as let's say Royal Blacksmith, which was you draw 5 cards and then you discard all your coppers. That's literally discarding all your coppers. This is not nearly as severe. So, and it comes with plus buy. It doesn't have the cost is reasonable. Uh, I like the Imperial Envoy. It's just not great if you don't have a lot of econ. If you're just trying to spin your doing things with like with an engine, but you could just have 10 coins in your deck and then you find your Imperial Envoy, but you just find one of them and then you do something about the others. I don't know. But then you would need 12 if you're going to play two. So, but basically you can calculate how much econ you're going to need to put in your deck if you're using Imperial Envoy. At least one of those cards should be a silver, and then you're still getting a 5 cost +4. So it's all pretty nice, really nice package. I think it's really good. Kitsune is the next one. It is a action attack omen. Uh, there's only supposed to be 6 omen cards. Um, so this is +1 sun. Choose 2 different options. +2, uh, +2 coin, +2 actions. Each other player gains a Gurse and gains a silver. Oh yeah, this was previewed today. Yeah, this is previewed. Okay, so um, huh. Plus two actions, each other player gains a curse, or two coins, each other player gains a curse. I love that there's now now that Montebank is gone, we can finally go back to you get plus two money and then you give a player a curse. I guess Trickster was like that too, because you got money on the next turn. Um, but you have some bit more flexibility. You can do like kind of a plus two actions gain every turn a player gains a curse, or you just use it as a silver for the plus two action, or as a kind of a festival without the plus buy. You can gain silver, so it's an econ. It's a nice package. I think once the curses run out, it gets to do a lot of good things. Well, no, it gets to be a silver, um, with it plus two actions, and it also gives econ. So I think for various different reasons, you're gonna get a kitsune, and I think the versatility, or not the versatility within one game, but the reasons you might get kitsune are high. So, and it is a cursor, so I think it's going to be pretty powerful one. Definitely more powerful than Trickster, I would say, given all the, given that it doesn't have to be terminal. So, uh, maybe the prophecy impacts that. I'm not putting. I'm saying the prophecy in a lot of ways is a wash. It's not a wash. It's like you do get some benefit of having control over when the prophecy finally activates, but it does as depending on how, if the game is slow enough, then both players kind of benefit or suffer from it equally. So you just have to plan, not equally, but you have to plan around. Basically, you have to plan around the prophecy regardless. Uh, Especially if you mirror, if both players are getting the sun card, the omen cards, and they probably will because the omen cards are all made to be pretty strong. When we had Rustic Village, River Shrine, Poet, all strong. What was the other one? Was it not change? Oh, it was Mountain Shrine. Yeah, all these really good Omen cards. Omen OP. Okay. Litter is another simple one. It's plus two cards, plus two actions, plus one debt. Okay. For five. So if you think of like fugitive, if going back to that plus one card, plus one debt is like discarding a copper. Uh, at some point in the game, the next copper you draw, you discard it. Uh, this this would be like a fugitive, except it gives plus two action, so it's actually like a lost city. Discard a copper. Which you don't have to discard. You like just wait until, or the equivalent of a copper. So all that's to say, I think it's really good. I think this is so 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 nice to have the litter, especially. I think it's going to be a really good, convenient source of um, reliability, getting everything you want in one package. Compared to Root Cellar, this is just giving you the actions and giving one less debt. Playing six, if you play six litters, you have now four actions. You've drawn. You're at eight cards, and you have three debt. So with one Root Cellar, you would have gotten up to seven cards, one action, and one debt. Uh, the root sellers are easier to buy, but the litters, I think. I guess the one knock against it is that the debt makes it harder to buy more litters. Like you're not gonna get uh, them as fast. But if you have ways of getting multiple, let's say with remodel effects or with things that cost gain fives like craftsman, you're gonna pop off pretty well with litter. Uh, the next card is a rice broker, and I see that rice is on the corner. So this is a 5 cost action. It says plus one action. Trash a card from your hand. If it's a treasure, plus two cards. If it's an action, plus five cards. Okay, so if it trashes one card, that's like a one treasure. That's like It's not like junk dealer. It's like one a junk dealer but one less money or whatever equivalent, whatever, or it's like that would be like spice merchant. Yeah, trash a treasure. Okay, so that's the spice merchant mode. Keeps your hand size. That's okay. I accept you can, unlike spice merchant, you can trash estates, which is a big deal. Even if it's a bad rate, you're trashing a estate for nothing. But that's a big issue with like spice merchant is just your econ. You get choked on the estates if you can't trash them. But this doesn't have that problem because you have an answer to that eventually. And if you trash an action +5, that means you'll be at 8 cards in hand. Much better than something like Zombie Apprentice. Um, Lining it up with the action you want to trash, that's going to be tough. But it gives you that. So it's going to be having something later in the game. But when you have it later in the game, you can just be like, okay, I don't need these cards anymore. I don't need my villages anymore. I'm like, towards the end of the game, I don't need this stupid chapel anymore. Time to draw 5. It's going to be a lot of tempo. So uh, I like it. It's my kind of card where you can start to become reckless with it as you need. The cost is I mean the cost hold obviously the cost is for 5 you can get better trashers in the early game than this. But if those trashers aren't there, you might still get this, and then you get it pays itself eventually. Uh, if you get it later in the game, you could do some stuff with it. Although Dominion being a snowballing game, um, having a weaker trashing option early is not a great selling point, even if it has the potential to absolutely pop off later. But I still like it. I still think it's pretty good, even if it's not as wildly um, even if it's not as crazy as something like upgrade. Even we'll see. Ronin is another action shadow card. It says draw until you have 7 cards in hand. That's pretty simple. If you play it from the bottom of your deck, you'll go up to 7 cards in hand. Uh, if you play it from your hand, you still go up to 7 cards in hand. So you're not really worried too much about. Uh, Although the thing about like let's say Ninja and Ronin and Fishmonger, if you do draw them and shuffle your deck before you get to play them, and they're in your hand, they're not going to be they're going to miss the shuffle and you won't be able to play them from the bottom again. Uh, so you do hope that you could play this. However, it lets you play around the draw to X cards in hand a lot more reliably because now there's one component that you don't have to worry about drawing with the others anymore. So now you could just play like all of these things that discard or things that trash, and then you know exactly where the Ronin is. You can it's always like available in your hand to play it to drop to 7. So I do like that a lot. I do think it's the um something something that's going to be praised for its draw to X capabilities that a lot of the other ones fail to have. The doesn't have the built-in this has the built-in reliability that the others don't. So I like that. Let's go to the next one, Tanuki. Oh, it's another shadow card. Is these all the shadow cards? Let's see. Anyway, Tanuki is trash a card from your hand, gain a card costing up to 2 more than it. It's a remodel. Okay. Uh, hmm. I had predicted that there would be like a shadow card that would be a workshop, but this is a shadow card that's a remodel instead. That costs 5. Well, there's no restriction on the card that you gain or that you trash. As long as it costs 2 more, so it's just gonna mill provinces really bad. Like you're gonna trash province to province, and there's a lot. There's nothing you're gonna be able to do about it except instead of having to worry about the remodel having to be drawn with the province, you just have to draw the province or the gold, and then you just trash it. And then it comes with the implicit +1 card, so you're also be able to do other stuff. Um, if you do manage to open with this, like, great. Now you don't have to worry about lining up your run model with missing the estates. I think it's pretty powerful. I'm gonna be real. Uh, uh, just the more like just having the certainty of like when you can use this with any of the other cards, as long as you don't bottom deck them together. Uh, yeah, and then just have if you have, let's say, like two Tanukis or something, and they're just hanging at the bottom of the deck, and just be like village, and then trash two cards with the two Tanukis from the bottom of the deck. That's kind of uh, that's pretty powerful. Oh, that's pretty good. That's gonna be really good. So I think it's a really good card. Next is the Tea House. It's another Omen card. Does +1 sun, +1 action, +1 card, +1 action, +2 coin. Uh, cantrip +2 for 5. Okay, so it's almost like they're treating the sun as if it's like a bad thing, because it's like this card would be pretty is pretty good without the sun, without the prophecy part. It's like activated conspirator every time. You don't have to worry about lack of reliability. It's just pure extra coin compared to market. Like there's not much in the game that's just except for like a laboratory that draws like your silver or something. That okay, that's like +2 coin, I guess. But you can make the whole deck out of just tea houses and not have any of those other payload cards. They're just more reliable than any of the other stuff. It's just crazy. I don't know. I just feel like it's good. Like, come on, +2 coin every turn. I mean, I liked Cabin Boy because it was like from Plunder, because that was every other turn you got +2 on a cantrip. This is every turn you get +2 for 5, and 5 and like there's Grand Market that does this and then gives +5, but the difference between 5 and 6 is also pretty substantial because there's like more ways of getting fives now. So yeah, um, move on to Samurai. It is an action duration attack. Each other player discards down to 3 cards in hand once. At the start of each of your turns, this game +1. This stays in play. Okay. Okay. So it's just like a treasury kind of, honestly, guys. I mean, I do like it. Um, you seem some kind of cantrip. Each one of these is kind of like a cantrip. It's not as good as, let's say, the +1 coin. I don't think is as good as what Hireling gives you, which was +1 card each turn. But Hireling didn't attack. This one attacks. Although, yeah, this one attacks once. If you thrown room it, you still attack once. But you're getting +2 coin. Yeah, yeah. Um, and then you're still building. It's I don't know. It's what it is. It's around hireling level. I don't know. I could be wrong. It could be worse. It could be a bit better because of the attack. But 6, you 6 before you even like you're not attacking any early hands. You're not denying any fives. You're just kind of hitting them at some maybe less than ideal point, but only once. So, although if you do it like 5 times, 5 samurais, then you're getting +5 each turn. So that's the kind of a way to win the game too. Rice. This one was previewed. This is +1 blind, +1 per different type among cards you have in play. 7. Yeah, that's good. I mean, come on, look how many we don't have any 4 cost types. I thought I was predicting some kind of 4 type card. That was silly of me, but we have a bunch of 3 type cards. Look at the ninja 3 3. It's so easy. Then you play a treasure, you get +4 and +5. Like I know gold. Then with any other like fanciness from the other expansions, as there's, let's say, in Rising Sun, there's action, attack, shadow, Omen, and Treasure. So that's like 5. And then from if you start using other expansions, you get uh what do we get? We get the Odyssey and uh Augur and the where am I looking for? Liaison. Yeah, so there's like lots of it gets wild pretty quickly. Come on, like rice is good in real life, and I like eating rice and hide for this card. Does it have any synergy with the rice broker? No, it just makes you broke. You could trash the rice to the rice broker. I think that's the anti. I think that's anti-time. Is that's probably anti-thematic, right? The cards are supposed to be the rice equivalent. So +5 cards is like +5 coin from rice. That's I don't know. That's how I see it. Anyway, we're going to be shifting gears a bit. We're going to be talking about the prophecies. What do the suns give us? I'm not going to give maybe too much strength talk about here. I'm already getting like worn out. So let's go. Approaching army is after you play an attack card +1. Set up add an attack kingdom card pile to the game. Oh, okay, that's good. That's cool. More instead of Young Witch where it's the attack that adds a pile, you're just adding the attack instead. Most attacks aren't spammable. There's Kitsune now. There's the classic that I showed earlier. From classic from Alchemy Scrying Pool. That's an attack. Uh, Samurai is you can play it once. Snake Witch, that's an attack. Okay, so you can play a bunch of Snake Witches, and then you may just have them all give +1. Okay, so that's something. Uh, Biding time at the start of your cleanup. Set aside your hand face down. At the start of your next turn, put those cards into your hand. Okay, so I see this is a like you just put your Haven your entire hand. Like there's like card Coastal Haven from Allies where you just hold on to cards, put them in your hand. This one is doing that for all your cards every turn, and then they don't get hit by a discard attack because it's at the start of your turn they come back to your hand. They're not like you don't go up to 9 cards and then you just get hit by a stupid ninja and go back down to 3. I guess that's the reason it works like this because they know that ninja's in the same set. Uh, Yeah, just looking at the attacks. The attacks are all pretty nothing too exotic. It's discard attack or gain a curse. So the attacks have been uh mild, or not mild. The attacks have been classic attacks that we've had from the base set. Nothing crazy. What's bureaucracy? Uh, when you gain a card that doesn't cost 0, gain a copper. Okay. Now I'm starting to think poet's gonna be pretty good. Okay, so this is good with like rustic village now. Um, well, that rustic village. So like the discard 2 +1 card, the trashing of the stuff, the trashing of the stuff, the drawing of the stuff. What was the other Omen card? Kitsune is okay. That's not so good with gaining copper each time. Uh, Tea house, right? That's also. But yeah, there's a bunch of there's some of these omen cards that's going to make this cancel maybe help you cancel out the bureaucracy. That's kind of just honestly, it's kind of just annoying. Come on, like you gain a card doesn't cost 0, gain a copper. Just like it changes the game, but like the whole you're kind of just undoing the fun of having the river shrine. Maybe that's why they're so strong because then the board gets slowed down. So it's just kind of giving a have have fun because you're have fun now because you're gonna lose you're gonna run out of fun later. Maybe that's what these a lot of these prophecies are gonna be like. Uh, Divine Winds. This is previewed. This is when you remove the last sun, remove all Kingdom card piles from the supply and set up 10 new random piles. The original piles they stop being part of the supply and they also stop being part of like the extra supply, the non-supply. They just kind of non-interactable. So you can't return cards back to the piles that disappear. Uh, but they do if you have a traits on them. They still apply. I presume if they had adventures token on them, like a +1 coin token, the +1 coin token on the pile, it would still work because the pile still exists somewhere. They're just not uh, interactable anywhere. They've kind of just been swept away. Uh, and you have to set up 10 new piles. So it's like I'm building a deck, and why am I? If I build a village deck and I'm going to add the smithies later, what if there are no more smithies after that? Like, why am I even bothering building a deck planning for the future if I know it's going to be swept away? So this when a card like Divine Wind is around, I'm just going to like get all the good cards I can early on, and then just pray that pray that they end up being the correct choices. Or if you just let's say playing like junk dealer money, okay, like in your with like I don't know, a courtyard junk dealer silvers, and then you're just buying provinces like that. Well, you don't have to worry about your plan getting derailed by divine wind because you don't need anything else from the kingdom necessarily. You'll get what you can, but if you're trying to like have an image of what the board's going to look like, I want to have the imagination of what the board's going to look like at the start of the game, not like in the middle of the game. I don't know. Plus the setup, like just having to prepare an extra 10 cards and then getting those piles out in when playing in paper, like having to get those piles out. You don't have to end the game or yet, but at the end of the game, you're gonna have to put cards back into 20 kingdom piles instead of 10. So there is a lot of extra overhead for a game that you might not even want to play anymore based on how the early turns went. So I'm it's whatever. I'm not like I'm not gonna ban it. It's fine. Like it's online. It's fine. It's like it's a good laugh. Maybe something silly happens. It's all for memes. It's just not like that's what I think. Enlightenment was a previewed prophecy. It says treasures are also actions. When you play a treasure in an action phase, instead of following its instructions, +1 card, +1 action. So you get to cycle. You get to silos for all. You get to spin through all of your treasures that you don't want to draw right now. I think that's uh, very helpful in a lot of situations. Um, well, it just makes it that you can have your payload be treasure again, and then just maybe you don't want. Maybe if you're gonna have to cycle most of them, you kind of wasted your time getting all the silvers. If you're just gonna have, you wasted your time getting silvers. If you just have to play them as +1 card, +1 action every time. However, if you're getting lots of golds, let's say through gold mine, and you get some unlucky hand, well, now you can cycle through the golds. It's not great, but it's something. So pretty cool. And there's some cards that care about how many cards are in play. Like what is it? The artist cares about what cards are in play. So uh, and then with the poet, right? Like you draw a copper, now that copper cycles, so that really is like a lab now. That's pretty neat. Flourishing trade. It says cards cost one less. You may use action plays as buys. So it's like if you have a village and then you don't spend all the actions, you can use those as buys. Uh, that's just like a kind of cute way of injecting the because cards costing one less is not really that fun if you don't have plus buy. It's kind of like okay, it's kind of just like okay, I got a samurai now. That's what that is. We have that. There's that card Canal, that Project Canal from Renaissance, which just reduces the cards cost by one. Sometimes that's a lot of times that's relevant, but sometimes it's just like yeah, man, whatever. So I think flourishing trade having that extra clause about the buys really sweetens the flavor that it's adding to the board. It's making it more relevant than it would be otherwise. Um, Can I don't know about this. I can't say the same for approaching army, but you never. Maybe if the attack is spammable, I don't know. Next is good harvest. Um, well, you didn't think. I guess the first card is well, good and harvest in the same sentence. That's not next to each other. That's not right. But this is a different card. Card thing. It says the first time you play each differently named treasure each turn. First +1 blight +1 coin. Uh, Yeah. Okay. So it's amazing. Oh, so it's changing the value of your coins, like your treasures now. Um, that's pretty good. So now the first copper you play costs gives you two. The first silver gives you a three, and plus buy all that good stuff. All that good stuff. Um, Great leader. This was previewed too. After each action card you play, plus one action. That's uh that kind of it validates the rustic village a bit. But you know what? You know it's coming. Some people really like that. Some people don't. You know it's gonna happen. So now you can start loading up on your imperial envoys and just getting a really crazy board with what's gonna happen way more quickly than getting champion from adventures set up. Which maybe people don't like. Maybe the wait. That's the thing with champion. Like the wait and the reward for getting that weight feels so good. Like, okay, finally I've gotten my champion. Now I can have actions here. It just kind of happens right away, very quickly, like within like the third or fourth shuffle. The well, okay, maybe not the third shuffle, but after like the fourth or fifth shuffle, it just happens for free. It just happens for free because people are playing with the omen cards, and that's not. That's just a game changer, and you know how it's gonna change the game. Growth was previewed. It says when you gain a treasure, you gain a cheaper card. Yeah, I like that. Like it turns your gold. Now your gold is the border village. I think it goes infinite with skulk. You gain a skulk, you gain a gold, gain a skulk. But why are you gonna do with 10 skulks? I guess however rare that combination is, they didn't care to stop it. Um, if you gain a silver, you have to gain a two cost. Ugh. Well, if you want to gain estates, yeah, like with if you have a free way of getting silver, like with the kitsune, uh, yeah, you can get something cheaper, maybe an action. The gold is good, like you get gold and you get some five cost. That's nice. It could be also be a duchy, so gaining gold and duchy. That's like you have horde every turn, kind of. It's kind of like horde for treasures. It's reverse horde for treasures. If you get a platinum, you get a call. If you get a platinum from call uh, prosperity, you get a province. Okay, so I think it's cool. Harsh winter, and if you get a loot, you can get like a cheaper. If you get a loot, you can get a loot, then a gold, then a silver, then a copper. Yeah, crazy stuff. Harsh winter is when you gain a card on your turn. If there's debt in its pile, take it. Otherwise, put two on its pile. Oh, well, it's okay. So it's like a tax attack that you're imposing um on other people. Uh, it basically benefits the first mover. Uh, Hold on here. hmm Uh, yeah, sorry about that. Any card. So if you get a province now with harsh winter, the next person to take province takes a debt. That's kind of it's kind of well, it means that this is actually makes the omen cards better because now you trigger this and then you have control over the harsh winter. So you're saying you're leaving other people in the dust. So in that sense, it's kind of cool. Actually, it's just gonna be like kind of weird with stuff like change and stuff. You were planning something and then uh yeah, I just feels like tax. I don't think it's like I don't really like mind it. It just kind of feels like something that people might complain about. But I think it's okay. Like it's fine. It just kind of really punishes you for having not enough economy. A kind emperor at the start of your turn, and when you remove the last sun, gain an action card to your hand. Since most of the omen cards are non-terminal, you could get a good action to like, continue your turn. But I still think that like the next player that doesn't activate it gets the benefit of having the thing that will help them kick off gain to their hands. So maybe it's not it benefits the opponents. Sometimes if you play, let's say, mountain shrine that's terminal or the river shrine that's terminal, you might. But you do get an extra action to work with, so you do scale up fast. You do scale up a bit more as the game goes on, so you snowball a bit more because you have an extra action. But in the short term, this might benefit the opponent more. As an effect, it's like everyone gets to do their thing. So it's kind of the game becomes very kind. You can think of that. Panic is another prophecy. It says when you play, this was previewed. When you play a treasure, +2 buys, and when you discard one from play, return it to its pile. So the treasures go away very quickly. They do give you the stuff to replace themselves and you could get more copper. So you never really, unless you have debt, you're not stuck necessarily in terms of buys, but you could get stuck. Maybe there was no. Um, But let's say you buy a gold and then the gold gives you three. I thought it gives you +2 buys. It really doesn't look like an attractive proposition anymore. What does become attractive is gaining silvers. Like let's say with Kitsune, you gain silver and then you draw that silver and you can play it, and it's like a +2. Although it already gives you plus. This already gives you +2. Uh, but it gives you get the plus. You get the plus buy. I don't know what's a card that gives silver or copper. Well, okay, the even something like artificer will gain a copper to your deck, and then you play the copper and it doesn't stay permanently. So that's kind of nice. I don't know. I have to play with this one. Let's not no reason to panic yet. Progress. Uh, when you gain a card, put it onto your deck. Okay, so yeah, so that means everything kind of like all these on play. There are some things that will lose track. Like you have to worry about all that lose track stuff now, like with Siren. Everything but it goes onto your deck immediately. So if you want to do gain and play, you still can. It doesn't like the next one's rapid expansion, where it's when you get an extra treasure, you set it aside and then you play it at the start of your next turn, so you can't use it. It's really strong. Like this rapid expansion is really strong. It makes the board really strong. Sometimes it's going to be like inconvenient, but progress. Oh, but then you get a province and it goes on top of your deck. Why are they calling that progress? I don't know. It's good when you're building, and then that makes greening a lot worse. So people are just going to build, 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 build. And okay, so I think it's something to consider. I think it'll be fun sometimes. It'll be unfun other times. Last prophecy is sickness. At the start of your turn, choose one, gain a curse onto your deck, or discard 3 cards. This was previewed too. Really, I'm just gonna pick the curse most of the time. Just have a sea hag every time, and then just never really worry about that. Discard 3 cards unless I know I have 3 junk cards, which is really bad. It might not be. I mean, if I have like village and then I have a Ronin, like okay, I draw back, so maybe I avoid. There's gonna be some cute times where I avoid taking the curse, but like you just take the curse each time. It's okay. Like it's what it is. It slows down the game, so people like that. But now we get to the events. These are things that you buy. Continue was a previewed one. It says once per turn, gain a non-attack action card costing up to 4. Return to your action play phase and play it, and then on top of that, get +1 action, +1 buy. So you get to like it's like a village. In a sense, it's like you gain a card. For 8 debt, you gain a 4 cost. You and then get a village and plus buy on top of that. So really strong. It's once per turn. The debt makes it uh, costly in terms of coin, but if it's to save your whole turn, um, maybe that's worth it. Like now, the debt means that if you go back to the discard 4 coppers analogy, maybe saving your turn in terms of economy is not going to be great. So the debt cost is significant. However, you are getting that 4 cost. So if the 4 cost is something that's going to be helpful a lot of the time, yeah, you do it. Otherwise, I wouldn't really get continue randomly. Like I want to have I need to know that it's going to be worth taking that debt. to get to continue. Sometimes the four cost is not they're not special. Sometimes the best thing is just silver, and that's not going to be worth 8 debt, even if you do get to go back to your action phase. This is another previewed one, Amass. It's an event, so if you have no action cards in play, gain an action card costing up to 5. I mean, we already had it inherited to give you like actions that you shouldn't have super early. So this is just like, okay, everyone gets to have. You just buy this turn 1, turn 2. Now you have 2 5s in your deck, and everyone gets to do 2 5s in your deck. And it's like some people wouldn't you want to just play, um, like control your hand side, like play in paper, and then just everyone gets to decide their starting hand side, this hand configuration. But then later on the game, like you get to do other things, like you could keep buying it later in the game. Uh, if you have somehow have multiple buys, if you let's say play like a loot card, if I play only treasures and a plus like loot card, I could get like 4 or 5 costs because like as many buys as I have, you just play treasures that give plus buy and you get to buy a bunch of 5 costs. That's like crazy, pretty crazy. If the 5 cost gives plus buy, which one? Let's say spices. Okay, so spices on mass is kind of like broken. Come on. Oh, it's an action card. Never mind. You can't gain spices. You can gain, so you have to gain an action. Okay, okay, that's mm, limits the combos, but it's just, so you could still do some really crazy things with it. Um, Asceticism is the next one. Just pay any amount of coin to trash that many cards from your hand. Uh, So that the excess. Okay, so they have if you have 4 coppers, you play the 4 coppers, you pay the 2, and then you can trash 2 cards from your hand. So in the start of the game, you can use this to trash 1 estate and then buy silver. So what's this? Or if you use a 3 cost hand, you buy this. You pay 1 to trash 1 estate, and you buy a silver or a 4 cost. Once you do that, it's just like the banish openings. So you just like have 10 cards in deck now. So you can guarantee that you hit 5. So it's one of those. Later in the game, you can trash all of your junk cards pretty swiftly. Kind of really nerfs cursing in games that do have a lot of draw that are like kind of um, trying to push through the draw. You would use asceticism to just thin out the junk uh, within a few turns, as long as you get a few lucky turns. So yeah, uh, that's pretty powerful. Credit. So it says gain an action or treasure costing up to 8 plus debt equal to its cost. Uh, we had this previewed. I think like they were saying like in testing, just paying debt instead of coin was broken. It was too strong, but having to pay 2 and then limiting it to action and treasure uh, makes it safe. Like you can get the 5 cost, you can get your 5 cost, but then you take a lot of debt. So uh, you could turn like let's say a 4-3 opening into a 5, it's like a 5-2 opening, right? We would take debt equal to its cost. To no, well, let's say you buy a 4, you pay 2 of the debt. Yeah, so it's like you get like 5 nothing. Yeah, so it's like that. You can change the openings. You could just um whatever you might need, you can get it for cheap, and then it just has to pay itself off. So usually that's like a turn. Like if you think of a 5 cost, you spend a turn paying a 5 cost. So you can presume that you're going to need another turn to pay off um, that 5 cost. But if it's a key card, if it's something like a remodel that you need right now for cheap, um, but then why would you just buy it? So this is for expensive cards. Um, I don't know. It seems okay. It's maybe it's fun, but it's a good, interesting choice to make. Foresight is another event of 2 cost event. Reveal cards from your deck until you reveal an action. Set it aside and discard the rest. Put it into your hand at end of turn. Oh, yeah, I like that. There's You might trigger a shuffle, but who cares? Because then you just foresight again. It's good with plus buy. It doesn't give plus buy, so if you have a source of plus buy, I think you'll want to foresight it once or twice. So like instead of buying a spare, well, scouting party gave plus buy, but still, this is um, set aside, discard the rest, put it into your hand to end the turn, so it still gets hit by discard attacks. Uh, you don't know exactly what action you're going to get, but it's still helping the reliability. So I think on spare two, like I like this, prefer this to something like ride, where you just get a horse. Like this is just let fewer steps. Kintsugi is the next one, costs 3. It says trash a card from your hand. If you've gained a gold this game, gain a card costing up to 2 more than the trashed card. So I enhance was like you trash a card. Oh, you could trash a non victory card to get something costs 2 more, and that's meant to like not let you remodel at the start of the game, but it's just annoying like that you can't. A lot of things you can't do with your estates with enhance as the game goes on, and you can't mill provinces, and you can't do stuff with Dutch. I just find that card annoying. The Kintsugi, you get to use it as a trasher, and then right when gold is gained, when you want to use it as a remodel, it gets to be a remodel. So I think this is really strong. Plus, you could do the thing where you just buy Kintsugi on the 3 hand, then buy a 4 cost hand, and you guarantee 5, and you're with the 10 card. That's a very common theme in Dominion now. Starting the second shuffle with 10 cards. We're seeing a lot of that now. Another event is practice 3. You may play an action card from your hand twice. So throne room for your payloads on command. I think that's nice. So if the payload gives money, that kind of offsets some of the cost. Some of the costs. Let's say if you were to double a Kintsugi, you would get plus 2 coin each time. You'd get a net 1 benefit from the Kintsugi instead of the plus 2, but you give 2 curses maybe. And then it's completely broken with Sook from Hinterlands 2 second edition. And I'm sure there's some other cool stuff you can do with that. You can't play any treasures anymore after you buy this, so that's not great with draw cards. But if you ran out of actions to play your stuff, maybe you find room for this. So it's kind of like Toil without the plus buy, but with an extra benefit. Next is Sea Trade, costs 4. Does plus 1 card per action you have in play. Trash up to that many cards from your hand. Okay. Up to that many. Okay, so if I played like 5 Sea Witches up here, and then I just buy this, I just trash 5 cards. So it's like it's not donate, but it's like later game, like late game donate. If you ever bought like donate on like turn 8 or something, or turn 10 just for a second trash. Well, this does that like pretty easily, and the kind of nerfs. Well, it doesn't necessarily nerf the cursors, but if you do get a lucky turn where you get to fight through the curses, this just invalidates a lot of cursing per action you have a card and you haven't played, including the durations. Uh, that's pretty crazy. A lot of the stuff is pretty crazy. Receive tribute, 5 cost. If you've gained at least 3 cards this turn, gain up to 3 differently named action cards. You don't have copies of in play. If you gain at least 3 different. Okay, yeah. So I see how this. So you get to gain new stuff. Okay. Um, yeah, that's. It reminds me a bit of Pilgrimage. No, or what's it called? It reminds me of Commerce. Everyone hates Commerce. That's from Menagerie. It's you gain a gold for each differently named card you've gained. Uh, and you get gold for that. And this is saying, well, you get to gain action cards, which a lot of them are for reliability purposes. They're better than gold. Like gold does have like the payload component, but for building, this is a lot nicer. And there's a lot of times where you're able to get 3 differently named 3 cards. It doesn't have to be differently named cards that you gain. You could just play like 3 3 supplies like from Menagerie. Just gain horses. You just gaining any horses. You just makes this crazy, makes this like so crazy. You don't have to do much. You just stop the turn and pay 5, get your 3 actions. Uh, get the yeah. So it's pretty nuts, I think. But it maybe maybe it won't be easy to do or won't be very impactful in some games. But in a lot of games, or it might be impossible to gain 3 cards. So okay, there's going to be a lot of games where this is like irrelevant. There's going to be half of some number of a good chunk of games where this is just wild. Last one is Gather. Actually, I think this was previewed. This is gain a card costing exactly 3, a card costing exactly 4, and a card costing exactly 5. So I compared this to Border Village, where it's like a 6 cost village and you're getting a cheaper card, often a 5 cost. This is, well, most likely either there's going to be a village at either the 4 coin level or the 3 coin level. Probably the 4 coin level, or maybe the village that's at the fine coin level, and then the draw cards at the 4 or 3 coin. Like one of those, and then you get another. So that's doing the village smithy thing. You're getting the village draw thing for 7, and then you get one more card on top of that. So I think Gather is going to be really good. Uh, in many cases, there may be games where the only 3 costs is silver. But you manage that. You could take a free silver. The silver might be helpful. Doing going on another axis and helping you out. So that's all the cards, and that's all I'm really willing to say about them now. But looks like there's a lot of wild stuff in the set. We'll see what I think a lot of the fun is supposed to be with the prophecies, whereas the events are just kind of cracked. Like let's be real. Like what the asceticism, sea trade, amass, kitsune. Like these events are cracked. Like these, I would say these events are like above the average of what um, Adventures gave with its events, and there were some good events here. Okay, I now looking at it. Okay, maybe fairy save, uh, lost bonfire. Okay, there's a lot of There's still a lot of really good events in. Uh, oh, that's gonna be timed out. There's still a lot of really good events in adventures, but like Rising Sun, this is just like some of the stuff is just obscene in these events. Anyway, yeah, so that's it. Gonna try these cards out somehow. See ya.